Welcome, everybody. If you could take your seats, we'll begin in just a minute. There's a game, so when we finish the game, we award the prize. So thank you all for coming back. We appreciate it's been a long afternoon after a long day yesterday as well, and travel and everything else. We appreciate your attention. The sad news is I got a phone call from California a few minutes ago, and unfortunately Slido is no longer working. I have other plans for you. In all seriousness, we'll now report back on the discussions that happened. Colleagues have got information for you to try and keep you with us at 4 o'clock, or all the way to 4 o'clock today. I'll ask you to play a game with me. As a special prize, being in Belgium, one of my colleagues has gone and picked up this very nice box. I think you'll all want to go home with it. And if we just demonstrate the game before we start, maybe, and then I'll hand over to colleagues from the performance-based approach who'll start taking the stage as I speak. We'll play a game. It's very simple. This is a game I've played several times at large dinners. It's called Heads or Tails. If you're not familiar with it, it's very simple. I'm going to ask you to stand up, and then I'm going to ask you to pick between your head or your tail. Courtesy of a colleague from Sweden, I mean, being from the UK, all of our coins have heads on. I discovered the German coin obviously doesn't have a head on, so we're not playing heads or Brandenburg Gates, but we are playing heads or tails. The last one standing gets the box of chocolates. What we'll do is we'll play this every time we do a stage switch. So it'll keep you up and down and hopefully feeling very enthusiastic for the afternoon. So if you'd like to play, please stand up. Please pick your head or your tail. And stay standing if you picked heads. If you picked tails, please sit down. Heads, you've made it through to the next round. You can now take your seats. We hand over to the performance-based group. And in a second, I'll ask you to stand up again.
Okay. So for those of you, after 2 long days of discussions, still there are not certain, and I don't know what the PBA stands for. This is performance-based approach, new delivery model, mechanism, not presented and not present in the current Interreg programming period, but it's somewhere there on the horizon. So it's a change of mindset. It's a change of mindset from the input-based to output-based. It's a challenge. We've been discussing this for, let's say, 3 long, interesting sessions. And what I can share with you is that actually no unanimity was reached. But what is important, oh, there you go. Thank you. Okay. But during the sessions, in 3 groups, we've figured out that actually we've got programs. They are a bit hesitant with this new mechanism. There are some programs, they started being hesitant, but at some point they spotted some opportunities. And there were a third group of the programs that actually they were with us, also working before in the performance working group. The ones that actually they simply believe in the kind of a change and they see the opportunities for the future. Well, from the discussions, from all the discussions, the main point was why. Why we would like to change into something that is new, that is, that we need once again to learn together jointly on, where we've got 30 years of the experience, 30 years, of implementing Interreg. A lot of also simplifications. They are currently being implemented, simplified cost options. Yet, I mean, there is like a, what is important that actually we need to know more about it, and also but there is a willingness in the room to do it together and to do it jointly if we have to. Because this is also what showed like the last 6 months of the working together in the performance working group. But there are a bit of also, there are opportunities and also challenges ahead of us. And about first challenges, but also opportunities, I'll pass the mic.
Thank you, Greg. So the challenges we identified during these 2 days in our 3 workshops, 3 sessions. As Greg already mentioned, we will need to switch. I will say we will need a total switch of mindset and change from financial to quality control, which will definitely lead to redefinition of roles and responsibilities of controllers and, of course, auditors as well. So repurposing the assurance system. Then it will require revamping the framework of indicators, of course. We will need to find the ones which are suitable for performance-based approaches. So from currently widely used input indicators to output-oriented ones. And why output and not result, for example? Because they are more program-dependent. It will definitely require a proper discussion on the quality of outputs. Then changes, some monitoring systems will require changes and adaptations. The processes, as we all know, will have to be changed and adapted. And at the beginning, more resources will definitely be needed.
Thank you, Jasmina. This leads me directly to the opportunities that were mentioned in our sessions, meaning those increased effort at the beginning for the setup will also lead or will lead to less administrative burden during the project implementation. Control reporting will be easier, and in the end of the day, also the project implementation should be faster. Then if you set it up accordingly, the performance system, then there also opens the opportunity to have advance payments to programs and further to projects. A mechanism which was requested already since many years and so far not accomplished. But you can do it now, and using this you can reach new beneficiaries which were previously or until now not really capable of financially stemming Interreg projects. It's also now more an output-focused approach, which is or can be seen also as the next step in a process which led from real costs via the SEOs, which we have now and which are quite well functioning, up to the new sky of performance-based approach. And Przemek, if we want to achieve this, what do we need?
So certainly, I'm looking at the Commission colleagues. Certainly, we will need the direction and the details from the European Commission, and we will need them very soon. The framework that we presented in our paper is just an example. You do not have to take it for granted and apply. No, this framework will need to be still further developed, which we will do working in the group. You already know that we have a working group which is meeting online, and the result of the 6 months is there in the paper. The working group is still open, and you can join us if you wish. I heard from some of you that you are interested. And the last but not least, we will cooperate with the colleagues from the indicators work group who are now standing up. So, Dani and Besiana, the floor is yours.
We definitely will cooperate, Przemek. We are ready for it. Indicators. is a hot topic, but unfortunately I'm not talking about indicators now. It's about territorial instruments. Next slides. Yes. So one core element of Interact is its place-based approach. And this can be done through the territorial instruments, such as, example, territorial impact assessment, ITI, community-led local development, CLLD, or Europe closer to the citizen, PO5. However, we all know these instruments are not fully used to the potential how they could be used. So in our session, we discussed what are the instruments? Are these all instruments? Are we missing some instruments? And what are the challenges and the successful factors with these instruments? And therefore, we invited two program representatives who shared very openly their experience, what is working, what is not working, and what was the conclusion we made, Bessiana?
Yes, we concluded the session by agreeing in principle, meaning that we have to include in the paper also the outcome of the discussion of the session and including also the urban aspect besides the cross-border and interregional aspect. Of course, there is a need to continue working on the territorial instruments beside the ones that we considered in the session, trying to come up also with more innovative instruments in order to fit all the Interact specificities. And with this keeping in mind, it's not that we will not build on other territorial tools like local-led groups or EGTCs, but rather we will keep the work to make these instruments to fit all the Interact community, taking into account all their specificities. So the wish of the group is to continue the exchange on what is the core element of Interact, being place-based to the territories, taking into account and addressing all the needs of the territories, and at the same time building on bottom-up approaches, meaning being closer to citizens, being closer to local stakeholders, and being closer to civil society.
Yeah, that's it. Very brief, to the point.
So while we change over, everybody who chose heads last time, please stand up again. Okay. It's good. This is a good judgment. We have to see who comes first. Do we finish the heads and tails before we finish the presentations? Let's see. Okay, so please pick again, your head or your tail. And if I can toss a coin, it's heads again. So if you pick tail, please sit down. You're out of the game. Heads, sit down as well. You'll play next round. And now I hand over to my colleagues on external cooperation.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if we missed the round, so we are there still for the next round, I guess. Okay, and if you take the next slide, please. Yes. For external cooperation, so there, what we've been doing, we have highlighted on the way all the time the 3 dimensions of external cooperation, namely neighborhood, enlargement, and outermost regions cooperation. And here in this workshop here, or session here, we also divided the group based on these 3 dimensions. And there, as in all groups, so the discussion started from the discussion paper that we proposed, and the messages. If you go to the next slide, please. So, and there, in general, in the discussion that we had a common understanding of the messages that were proposed. But each group, they brought their insights and valuable inputs to the paper, and I believe that based on that, we are really able to enrich the paper. But now the idea on our case is to go or hear a bit directly what was discussed there in each group. So Bessie, you did the warm-up already, so maybe you'd start with IPA.
We didn't warm up, but we also have a long-lasting experience because it's the third programming period for Interreg IPA programs to be considered external cooperation. So it's useful experience, and of course we need to build on this accumulated experience, but also the successes of Interreg IPA programs in bringing both member states and accession countries at the same table and helping neighborhood external countries to be on the same foot of member states. So these achievements should be taken into account, should be kept, the specificity of Interreg IPA programs. We have Interreg programs, internal borders, but let's keep also the unicity and the specificities of Interreg IPA programs and how they work to bring accession countries in the same footing of member states. Another aspect is the contribution that the Interreg IPA programs are bringing to the enlargement and to the pre-accession policies, and these are very useful experiences to be taken into account and to build further on, because they are not only bridging the gaps, but also providing useful instruments to bring these countries on the same foot of member states. Security was another element that was mentioned and that will be also considered in the next programs, but a lot of was discussed also on flexibility and simplification. And in terms of simplification, one of the elements that was seen as a good approach and step forward in this current programming period was the Interreg Fund, seeing together both ERDF and IPA funds managed in the same way. Next is next.
Yes. What concerns Interreg Next, so our discussion went around several keywords, and I will also present it based on these keywords. So the first pair of keywords would be around resilience and flexibility. And probably nobody knows better than the ENI, CBC and Interreg Next programs what it means to implement a program or a project in times of crisis or in times of war. And certain flexibilities allow these programs to be more resilient, and these flexibilities could take different shapes and forms, be it, for example, a built-in provision into the regulation itself, which would allow then to trigger certain measures in case of crisis, or it could be additional flexibility for the programs when they are designing their strategy architecture. So the next pair of the keywords would be synergies and inclusion. And for synergies, programs are asked to look a bit beyond their own little well-kept orchards and to see the big world around there, and to look for the opportunities and for the possibilities to multiply the effects and to have a bigger impact on what they are already doing and how they are already performing. But I'm sure that we will hear more about it in the feedback from the group on synergies. Now on the inclusion, yesterday it was stated very clearly from the transnational and interregional programs that they also would like to be recognized as key players in the area of the external cooperation. And we heard it also very clearly today from Urbact when they presented the results of the stakeholder consultation that these countries, they want to play also their role, and also the programs want to be recognized as players in this area. And also speaking about inclusion, not to forget about the regions which are bordering Russia and Belarus. So these are definitely the regions in which the discontent is growing, as we heard from the countries. And it is important to use the cooperation potential that is there to make the disparities smaller and to help these regions to be back in the cooperation. And that leads me to the last keyword, and this is the essential identity. of the Interreg Next programs, because these programs have their unique role and their unique position in the Interreg family, and they also have their own specifics, and they have their own procedures. And it is very important that these specifics are kept also for the future, so that these programs can best perform and best do what they are designed for. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now, finally, the external cooperation dimension is also illustrated in every corner of the globe, as we know, thanks to the outermost region cooperation. And also, who has been present since the beginning of Interreg. And in this current programming period, 21-27, there were two key achievements that we want to build upon. First of all, the recognition of these programs as external cooperation, meaning that they are essentially cooperating with EU external borders, and their neighbors are also EU's neighbors. And this needs to be consolidated in the next programming period. Also, the recognition as a specific strand, strand D, which highlights the specificities of these regions and these cooperation dimension in such context. The specific challenges that are linked with that, of dealing with countries that are not related to the EU, but are crucial for the regional integration of these EU territories. So this is really the focus of Strand D, and this needs to be kept in the next programming period. And this will also be eased by bringing a major simplification in the next programming period, by the integration of ERDF and DICI funds, which some programs are experimenting in this period, and also building on the experience from next programs especially. There will be some opportunities to learn from each other, but also need to recognize that this opportunity of having a specific strand should allow the most adapted model to be adopted based on the experience of these programs. And one more addition is which will be welcome, is a strategic framework for the outermost regions. In the same way and context as IPA and neighborhood, the outermost regions also should be awarded with this kind of strategic framework that would give them a frame for their intervention logic, and we have already identified some ways of upgrading the current regulation to achieve that. So just finishing by saying thank you to DG Regio colleagues for the support and the efforts to reach the current status, and we would like to support you in continuing these efforts, especially the coordination with DG INPA, and keep supporting these programs and the special dimension. Thank you very much.
So while we change the stage, it's time for those who are still playing to stand up. We've had two heads in a row. So please pick your head or your tail. Ready? It's tails. So if you picked heads, please sit down. Okay, we've got a few players still. You can sit down now if you picked your tail. You'll get to stand up again in a second as we hand over now to colleagues on a greener Europe.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Yep, and in our discussions on Interreg for a greener Europe, we started by one important acknowledgement that we are part of the global efforts to tackle climate change. So this is, I think it's important. It's something we've been discussing. It's in our paper, and something we've been acknowledging quite a lot as well. And we know we are all integrated in what's happening around the world in terms of the climate negotiations as well. We are just coming out of COP29, and we could see how hard it was to reach any kind of agreement in terms of financing and other elements from on the ways that we should tackle climate change, whilst at the same time we are already suffering all the effects of climate change, as we could see, for example, in Valencia a couple of weeks ago, unfortunately, and other parts of the world. So that's important. We are part of these global efforts to tackle climate change. And we need a lot of resources to tackle this challenge. I mean, it's estimated as about $1.3 trillion a year, and these funds should come from national governments, from private sector and other institutions as well, but should be different elements. And of course, we are all part of that discussion and also from the actions. And at the same time, the EU is dealing with a lot of challenges. We have competition from China, competition from the US, and at the same time, we have very strong climate goals that we need to achieve. And at the same time, we need to achieve this just transition. And we need to make sure regions are benefiting from Interreg, from the programs and projects that are being implemented. So it's a complex element, but definitely something we can do it together. So we also agree that local action is key. And Interreg is very well positioned to deliver these local actions, working with local authorities, working with local governments, municipalities, who are the ones that are on the ground suffering from the effects of climate change, but also are the ones who can provide solutions and test these new solutions through pilots and other elements as well. And so programs really understand these challenges. Programs are very keen on working together. I think there is definitely a consensus that a lot needs to be done, and we need to work together to get that and to help the EU and the world to deal with climate change. And to do that, the programs have a lot of different suggestions and also other elements that we discussed that Nico will now present.
All right, thank you. Is this working? Yes. So on this topic, once again, not a new topic. Actually, it's one of the most prominent topics since the very beginning of Interreg, and we know it's here to stay. And it should be even more a key focus in the next programming period, as it has already been the case in this current programming period. So we based our reflections in the paper, thanks to the contributions from all programs through various webinars and also a survey to collect, based on your current experience in providing green solutions for your territories, how could we improve, how could we make it more efficient and more connected to the realities of the territories and more connected with other opportunities for funding and for policies across the EU, which we know are plenty. So in this sense, we highlighted these key messages, which in a way support the fact that climate change should remain Interreg's top priority. And during the consultation, I think there was some consensus that PO2, Policy Objective 2 for Greener Europe, was mandatory, as you know. And there was no apparent issue with that. And actually, it helped maintain this focus on providing solutions for climate change. But there was a realization that, considering the current thematic menu, there were some improvements to be made, especially considering the specific objectives that were quite often considered constraining or limiting the action. And some broader specific objectives were preferred when we mentioned 2.4, 2.7, so climate change adaptation as a whole, or nature biodiversity protection. These are the ones that were the most selected by programs because they allow for this more integrated, cross-sectoral approach. And as a way forward, I think this is something that should be considered even more, allowing for this more systemic approach on shared resources, because we know that, especially in the context of climate change, such challenges don't stop at borders. They don't know borders. So there's even more of a push for more integrated solution. So the call for flexibility that we've been hearing a lot already in the various topics, and we'll hear some more, is in that sense, is is making it more adapting as well to more pressing issues regarding climate that our territories are facing, and having this ability to respond better to their needs. So in order to guide the discussions during the session, we had these questions that were in a way contributing to the reflection, but in the same time trying to reflect on the challenge that we know are faced by programs, on focusing on what Interreg does best. How does Interreg stand out is within the scope of each strand and the limited funding that Interreg has actually, we achieve practical, locally adapted solutions. And this can be done either from local level testing and transferring of these local level climate actions, using small scale projects, using existing mechanisms, but also on the larger scale from the infrastructure, but also from the governance models. And this is a very key element as well to achieve this. And in both cases, we realize that it's also about stakeholder engagement and building the right partnerships to achieve these solutions. And we talked about the issue of regulatory misalignment. When we are aiming for impact at local level, the result of an Interreg project will bring some solution maybe on one side of the border, but it may be difficult to achieve the same impact on another territory across the border, because such topics are regulated at national level very often. So we need to also, through Interreg, through cooperation, show that we have the right partners on board to achieve this impact. And finally, we also linking the topic of climate change, green solution, environment to the topic of sustainability. In the sense of Interreg, we are talking about sustainability in many aspects, also in terms of actually partnerships, being sustainable and building on results. But here in the topic of environment protection, we are considering sustainability in the way we operate as Interreg in our programs, not only through the projects we fund, which are protecting environment and providing solutions, but also how can we reflect Interreg as a whole to be more sustainable in the way we operate, we function. So we started with the first question of the additional survey that you probably have seen if you came to visit our stands, to support the reflection on what could be a better solution for more sustainable practices in the next programming period, considering that there's already plenty of practical solutions that are being developed by programs, and there's still a lot to be done in this current programming period. But I think the reflection on sustainability as horizontal principle, when we consider the do no significant harm principle, which in many cases we consider as a tick in the box, let's say, or some communication element that supports the action of program, but actually lacking the tangible and concrete meaning behind these principles. So we'll have more and more opportunities through our Interact activities to support you in this and encourage this reflection. So we will provide some. I think this is just to conclude. This is already showing that there's a clear motivation by program to include more sustainability and, in general, environmental protection as a key element of Interreg and how we operate as territorial cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Phil, please, as we get settled, good news is we're halfway there. So we obviously will finish as soon as we finish. We won't delay unnecessarily, but I still have some people playing a game with me. So those who are still playing, if you could stand up. We're getting competitive now. You should look around and see who, to make sure no one suddenly appears who didn't appear last time. So we've had 2 heads, 1 tail. I'm not going to lead you or make any suggestions, but please pick your head or your tail. Okay, here we go. And, ooh, tails. So heads, please sit down. We're down to 3. Okay. 4, sorry. Down to 4. Okay. It's getting very competitive. This is a very nice box of chocolates. You're doing very well to stay with me, by the way. I appreciate it is getting quite late on day 2. So thank you for giving me some good humor and smiles. And now, Mercedes, your beautiful smile awaits me, so please.
Okay, so synergies, a great topic that we are thrilled about. Well, the sessions went very well. We had 2 rounds, and we wanted to confirm that the messages already written in the discussion paper has been confirmed. We don't want to read the 10 different messages, but just to mention there were 3 different blocks. The first block was considering synergies as a long-term strategic planning. The second block was considering enhancing clarification, not only on the concept, but also responsibilities on the roles and the different maybe strands and possibilities maybe of the different programming structures, which kind of responsibility they could have. And the third one was practical support for synergies, and maybe with 2 main ideas. One would be financial and human resources, and the second one, non-financial incentives. Well, all in all, not only, I mean, we, as you remember probably when it was published, we had this discussion paper, but not only the discussion paper, we also had 2 annexes. One was related to macro-regional strategies, and the other was related to capitalization, just for you to know that they are there, okay? If you want to remember the messages, please go back to the document. Okay, next. Synergies are relevant for Interreg programs and are already happening. It's not easy, there are many difficulties, but they're happening in different levels, program level, but also project level. But still room for improvement. And another thing that we saw is that why we should work on synergies if it's not for a win-win situation, right? I mean, this is the main aim, right? Working in order to be more effective and to gaining a better kind of results, and also better impact on the territory. So maybe third message, and I'll go back quickly to you. No one size fits all. And this is maybe it's a premises, and more that we discuss with you, we see that's not only happening with synergies, but it's happening with all kind of topics, right? In the sense that we have to consider the different specificities, is it right? Okay, you're awake, fine. Specificities of the territory, but also of the different programs. Huh? And finally, just to remind that there's a slight preference of non-mandatory. As you remember, we were asking how would you see it? Is it mandatory or recommended, or was involuntary? Exactly. And of course, most of the cases was chosen non-mandatory with a mixture, most of them in a recommendation mode. So this was a bit of the summary of what happened during these 2 sessions. And now, Phil, what else what we got?
Yeah, so as Mercedes explained, there was a quantitative aspect to the sessions, which used Slido and broadly confirmed that the participants in the sessions were behind the recommendations that were in the discussion paper, and also confirmed our original assumption that there is a slight preference for an optional approach rather than a mandatory approach. There was also a quantitative aspect to the sessions, which added nuance and enriched the messages as well. And it is that I'm going to share with you now. So listening to participants, territory matters also while talking about synergies. A territorial approach to synergies means giving programs the freedom to develop synergies in a way that matters for their territory. There was also general consensus that synergies need to happen, and that for synergies to happen, there needs to be resources. As well as asking for more resources, others favoured rethinking resources or rethinking ways of working. And finally, on the mandatory, non-mandatory question. We heard that flexibility is key for that one-size-fits-all, not one-size-fits-all approach. On the other hand, there was some concern raised that if something isn't mandatory, it may not happen. Therefore, a challenge is how to allow flexibility while ensuring that synergies take place. And I will leave you with that challenge.
And that was our cue to come on the stage and talk about exactly flexibility and adaptability. Kevin, do you want to continue the game?
No, you go. We've got four participants
So no
left.
stepping up. We have to do the challenge of keeping you all with us now. So flexibility, adaptability, words that were repeated in many sessions throughout these 2 days, discussed in many contexts, but all more or less stressing the importance to maintain the possibility for the Interreg programs to be able to adapt to territorial needs. So one key message reconfirmed throughout all the sessions.
We had 2 sessions, and they clearly confirmed agreement that Interreg should remain a long-term strategic planning instrument, not a crisis management instrument. At the same time, greater flexibility between priorities is needed.
Yes, when it comes to thematic flexibility, we had more diverse opinion between the programs, again, because every program is a bit different, and that's the beauty of Interreg, because we are there to adapt to territorial needs. But in overall, there was a more general support leaning towards fewer, broader defined priorities. Predefined specific objectives were generally seen as a positive element of Interreg programs, meaning an element that allows programs to show the impact, show the contribution to wider EU policies. However, at the same time, the programs stressed that there should be a flexibility for the programs to adopt these specific objectives. And also, when there are changes to specific objective or the specific objective level, they should not cause a need for program amendments.
Several more ideas raised discussions. N+3 rule. Groups reflected how to ensure that programs focuses on the quality of interventions, not so much on financial targets. The discussion showed also that Interreg should support testing new ideas in a safe way, yet it remains to be still explored how to do it best. Shall it be included in the legislation, or shall it be on the program level? And final reflection is that overall programs stress the importance of maintaining certain continuity and stability of the program implementation framework.
And overall, all the discussions were going towards the reconfirmation that whenever we talk about flexibility and adaptability, we have to do it in a consistent way. So when we talk about the flexibility, it cannot be only allowed by one program element, like priorities, specific objectives. It has to go down also then to operations or any requested financial concentration. And therefore, it was also concluded that once we have a better understanding on the future legal framework, we should come back to the discussion tables and see how all the elements go together.
So I still have 4 people in my game, I believe. So we're delighted you're still with us, obviously. We're getting very close to the end. So please pick your head or your tail. Oh. Heads. Down to 3. Well, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Kelly, who has, if I've got the slides right, let's see. Sorry.
Thank you, Kevin. I come here for change. I can't wait to know who will go home with a box of chocolate. What a suspense. Okay, ISO 1. During the consultation process, which started end of 2023 until now, and also in the sessions today and yesterday, there was one message was made clear. And how does that work, Kevin? Okay, easy. And that's the fact that ISO 1 can be considered successful. Why? Because ISO 1 is used by all of the 4 strands for different purposes, for different approaches, and that's the richness of that Interact-specific objective. We've heard how programs are using it to build capacity, to remove obstacles, to strengthen their links with macro-regional strategies. We heard this morning an OMR program explaining how they plan to use ISO 1 to create cooperation mindsets and ways of working with the neighboring countries. So we heard a lot of examples, a lot of practices, and this can be clearly said. It is working well for now. And of course, it has its sets of challenges. Of course, it requires it requires a lot of effort to make it work and to reach the potential beneficiaries. Of course, there is room for improvement, but considering the fact that this is a new Interact-specific objective and considering also the level of experience of the programs with ISO 1, this is a very positive message. Flexibility, that's the key word. That's the word we most heard during these 2 days and also in our sessions. And this is where the added value of ISO 1 is too. It's been said, it's been highlighted, it's been appreciated, and for sure this is an element to be kept for the future. Then we have that second statement about giving more weight and visibility to ISO 1 in the future. We had very interesting discussion. We went into whether ISO 1 could become a sole priority, whether it could become an umbrella, whether it could become mandatory. And of course, there's no yes, no answer, there's no consensus at all. What we made clear is that there's no need to have to make it mandatory for the programs to select ISO 1 as a governance priority if we want to keep the flexibility for the future. But there was one conclusion, which is that actually strengthening ISO 1 in the future does not necessarily go through an improvement or a change in the future regulation if it's working as it is right now. Of course, we could suggest a better formulation, more definition or clearer definition in the regulation, but again, there's no need for mandatory elements, there's no need for big changes in the structure and the way it is. We need to keep the flexibility. If we don't then look at the regulatory framework, we can further reflect upon how we can better equip the programs to better implement ISO 1. And here we had different, but not only in the 2 sessions, but different ideas during the consultation process. Do we provide additional list of topics? Do we provide additional guidance to the programs to reach out to new beneficiaries? Do we explain how to combine top-down, bottom-up approaches? Do we reflect upon how to reduce their administrative burden? We also need to make sure programs look at their territories, define strategies, and then see ISO 1 fits into it and how it can be used. We collected a lot of a lot of information during those 2 days. We need to process the information. We need to see how and what we integrate in the final discussion paper. But I think that's what needed to be shared for now regarding ISO 1. Thank you.
So we're almost there with the game, obviously. Presentations still ongoing. So I've got 3 players left. We'll finish the game at this stage, okay? Someone will get the box of chocolates now. Okay, so let's see. Maybe the final time. Please pick your head or pick your tail. And it is heads. We have a winner. Would you like to come up? There is a few more remarks to make before we release you early for a coffee break and for some time together. And I know several people have to run to airports, but I promise you just a few last remarks from me. We want to just say thank you, especially to everybody who contributed to the additional elements discussion downstairs. This was an example for us of how to run stands successfully. We've tried them in several different events. We've never had so many people at such a defined period of time. So for us, this was a big lesson learned, which connects well to the evaluation form, which you'll receive shortly. Genuinely, this is not evaluation for evaluation's sake. We spend a lot of money on big events. Not this one, thankfully, DigiRegio. But we invest a lot of time and effort in it as well, and we want them to work as best as they can for you as our participants, as well as for us as organisers, obviously. But please do take a few minutes when that survey arrives to answer how you found the event. And if you didn't contribute to additional elements, it is still open. It'll only be open today. So if you have something to say that you haven't had a chance to say, please do so. There are other people who will come in to close more formally than I will. But just from our side, thank you, or from my side at least, thank you. The Post-27 group working on the topics within Interact, we've got a lot of work to do before December. We're working to the same timeline as programs for their own consultation. So hopefully by the time Christmas comes around, there's a nice present from us, which is final versions of documents uploaded on our website. And our next news flash is planned in early December, so there will be some form of next step communicated there for exactly what that means. But obviously, this is a genuine process from our side as well. So we don't know exactly what to do yet, because there's a lot of feedback and we need some time and moments to just process all of that. So in a second, I now hand over to Thomas, who I just asked to stand on the stage, please, so the camera can find him in a second.
It's not my size, is it? I can't use the lectern, you know.
You can come and take the lectern if you like, but the instructions were specific to be on stage. So, yes. So, Thomas, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you very much, Kevin, as well. Stand there and prepare the event, yes. Right, very shortly, it's Tuesday, 3 o'clock, and it feels like Friday, you know. So I'll be doing appreciative closure with some reflection very quickly on the session that we had on the citizen engagement. I think not all of you probably read our Interact program, but there, instead of our territorial analysis, we have actually SWOT analysis of Interact. And there, one of the strengths, we have put the social capital of Interact. We think it's quite a strong basis to build the whole community. And I think today's workshop showed, we talk a lot about administrative capacity. And I think in this room and in all the structures, actually we can show that this is quite a big strength of Interact. And the whole exercise with the citizen engagement, I think when we do it, we actually can engage the citizens to the level that no other programs can. And I think in today's environment, I think this is such an important aspect. And when we do it, and that's the point about cross-selling for Interact products, we just get evaluation from EC Day recently, and we had 75 events. We had 24,000 or almost 25,000 participants in these events. And on social media, we have 17.5 million reach I think it's quite a good basis for what we discussed about citizen engagement, that not everyone knows actually Interreg. So this is a bit of an encouragement for the next year, that if you did your events, great. If you didn't, consider it as one of the tools to do that. Okay, so this was just a reflection on the session. Now for the appreciative part, I think we had our Camino de Compostela with this process. We started in Santiago, and today we are here in Brussels, and we started a process that normally, I have 21-year experience in structural funds, it actually doesn't happen. Normally, we are not consulted at the policy formation stage. And I think this is something that we should appreciate from the European Commission. I think somebody had a plan. It didn't happen. It wasn't taken for granted as such. And I think this is a big thank you to the European Commission to take this contribution on board. Now, we still don't know what will end up in the report. Still, the process is so important. Okay. Now, as well, thank you for the venue and yesterday's dinner. I don't know what was in the food, but everyone was very energetic in the morning, and they are still here. So we are looking forward to Nova Gorica, what we are going to eat there. So again, thank you very much. Of course, it took the attention from all the logistics, and we could focus on the content. Now, thank you as well for our MC members. Some of them are here, and straight from here we're going to our MC meeting. They'll also approve these activities from us to support you. And I think today we are talking about trust. And in our MC meeting, sometimes we discussed what is a program. Are they actually program structures? Are they actually member states? And I think the fact that they allow to run these meetings, collect the inputs, and allow actually to express our opinion is actually a great expression of trust. So thank you very much for that. And of course, thank you very much to the Interact team. Big kudos to everyone. Yes, everyone who. Everyone who did the paper felt the pressure, you know, is it correct, is it not correct? You don't know it, we know it. There was a lot of anxiousness there. But of course, you were a very good crowd. Everyone respected their role. And I think here, all the workshop leaders and the paper leaders and everyone who supported it, again, big kudos and big thank you. So with this, again, it's appreciative closure. So again, I hope that everyone felt heard through Slido, through Mike. They could contribute to that. I understand that we can still send some input if it's relevant. But otherwise, I hope that everyone appreciated the process. And with this, I think I pass on the mic to Maury. Thank you. You can use the lectern.
As you prefer.
Thank you. I'm not sure I've got an awful lot to say, to be honest. I think Kevin and Thomas have covered it all. When I look at my notes, I think I'm going to say the same thing. Well, I can start with a couple of apologies. I apologize for our Director General and for our Director who couldn't make it this afternoon. That's why you're stuck with me. Interreg is a very wide and very disparate family. Some might even call us a very strange family. But we're definitely a family. We're 86 programs across the entire planet, ranging from the likes of the 100 kilometers of border between Hungary and Slovenia to the 6,000 kilometers of cooperation zone stretching from Africa to Australia in the Indian Ocean. What's important, I think, to emphasize with this level of variety is that it brings strength through diversity. Every program is different. Every program is unique. You've probably heard me say that before. Yet we all share a commonality of interest. We all share a commonality of overall objective. And we all have the ultimate belief that cooperation across borders is an inherent good, an inherent added value on everything else that we do. In the political regulatory cycle of the European Union, we are at the precise peak of uncertainty. Where is Europe heading? How much money will be on the table? What strange new innovative requirements will the Commission invent this time round? How much flexibility will there be in the regulation? Answering these questions at this moment is actually incredibly easy. I don't know. To all of them, I don't know. No one knows. And that, in actual fact, is why we're all here today. Because now is exactly the moment to come together and exchange ideas, thoughts, brainwaves, or brainstorms on the future. Now, you all have an unfair advantage in this process. You are all Interreg people. So you are all have the inbuilt affinity for cooperation, for working together, for producing results that are greater than the sum of their parts. And I think we've seen a lot of evidence of that today and yesterday in the discussions and the detail and ideas coming through in all of the working sessions. And my simple message to you in this context is keep going. Keep discussing, keep advancing your thinking, keep laying the groundwork for the next programming period. We may have to adapt our thinking. We may have to swerve and change angles and directions as more details start coming. As any details start coming forward. But you're at least on the road. You're not scrabbling around looking for your starter key and trying to work out where the ignition button is. You're already moving. And that's the important point, I think, in this overall process. So I want to finish by thanking you all for your active, dynamic participation, your commitment and your engagement over the course of the 2 days. I hope you have all found it useful and valuable. I certainly have. And a final finish, a particular thanks to all my Commission colleagues who've helped with the organisation of the whole event, preparation of thinking, ideas, planning, which means I just get to stand up here and read it. And a very special thanks and emphasis to Kevin, the entire Interact and TESIM team, for their extraordinary efforts in putting this event together and these type of events together. They are an asset and a resource that exists in no other EU framework. Keep abusing them as much as possible. Thank you very much.